Namaste. In the previous class, we looked at all the chemical properties of alkenes and concluded with the most important aspect, uses of alkenes. We said it is important to understand where we use these compounds in our daily life. That is when we will start appreciating each of these compounds when we start reading it. In today's class, we will look at the last set of compounds under hydrocarbons as per our study in the syllabus, which is study of alkynes. Now, we have already got introduced to what alkynes are. Alkynes are hydrocarbons which are unsaturated in nature and they have a triple bond. We also looked at ways in which we can name them in our nomenclature lessons. Today, we will go ahead and understand the various methods of preparation and the chemical properties of alkynes. One thing you need to know that more or less alkynes show similar properties to alkenes. So whatever properties that you have understood in alkenes, you will be seeing more or less the same in alkynes as well. It's just that the unsaturation level is different. Hence, the reactivity or the number of moles with which the alkynes react will be different. Other than that, more or less, the reactions are quite similar to alkenes. So let's start off with preparation. The first method of preparation, in fact, quite an important one in terms of exam point of view, is called as calcium carbide synthesis. Now, calcium carbide is nothing but CaC2. So what do we do to calcium carbide? We hydrolyze calcium carbide. Now, how do we get calcium carbide? Calcium carbide is obtained by heating limestone followed by reduction with coke. So we know what limestone is, calcium carbonate. Limestone is made to react with coke. It is reduced in the presence of coke to give us calcium carbide. Now, when this calcium carbide undergoes hydrolysis, acetylene or ethine is formed. Now, this is an industrial method for synthesis of ethine. So let's have a look at the chemical reaction. This is the structure of calcium carbide, CaC2. Now you can clearly see that there is a triple bond between both the carbon atoms. This calcium carbide is made to react with water. Hydrolysis is a reaction that takes place in the presence of water. So when hydrolysis happens, calcium will be taken away by both the OH groups or both the OH minus radicals as calcium hydroxide. So calcium goes away along with both the OH minus as calcium hydroxide. What is left over? Can you see what is left over there? I can see two carbons and two hydrogens. They will together combine to form acetylene. So pretty straightforward. All you need to know is the structure of calcium carbide. So calcium carbide upon hydrolysis will give us acetylene or ethine upon removal of calcium hydroxide. So this is one of the most important methods. Please make a note. This is an industrial method to prepare acetylene. Second method is from dihalides. We have already come across two kinds of dihalides. Which are the two dihalides? Yes, geminal dihalide and vicinal dihalide. So dihalides undergo dehydrohalogenation in the presence of alcoholic KOH to form alkenyl halide, which on treatment with sodamide gives alkyne. So the first reaction is pretty straightforward, that you know, dehydrohalogenation. Dehydrohalogenation is nothing but removal of hydrogen and halogen in the presence of alcoholic KOH. Now we already came across this in preparation of alkenes, remember? Yeah, we also came across a rule. What was the rule that we studied there? Can you recollect? Yeah, it is Seitzeff's rule. So we came across Seitzeff's rule there. So you're familiar with how KOH, alcoholic KOH, carries out dehydrohalogenation. So first step is that, and in the second step, there is soda line which reacts with the alkenyl halide that is obtained to form alkyne. Let's have a look at an example, starting with a geminal dihalide. We know that the geminal dihalide is a dihalide where both the halogen atoms are attached to the same carbon atom. So this is ethylidene dibromide. This is made to react with alcoholic KOH. Now we know potassium will take away one of the bromines to go out as KBr, and the beta hydrogen will be removed with OH as water. So potassium will take away Br as KBr. OH minus will take away one of the beta hydrogens to go out as water. This will result in the formation of vinyl bromide. So double bond gets introduced between the alpha and the beta carbon to give us vinyl bromide. This is the first step. In the second step, this vinyl bromide is made to react with alcoholic KOH again. So you can actually use 2 moles. If you use excess of alcoholic KOH, you will get the same reaction where potassium will take away bromine, OH minus will take away the beta hydrogen to give us acetylene. Or we can also use sodium NaNH2. So when we use sodium soda lime, sodium will take away bromine to go out as NaBr, and NH2 will take away hydrogen, beta hydrogen to go out as NH3, giving us acetylene. So let me just use an annotation tool here. Because NaNH2 is missing. So I have Na and H2. So NaNH2 is what is used. Sodium will take away bromine to go out as NaBr. NH2 will take away one of the beta hydrogens to go out as NH3, finally giving us CH triple bond CH, which is acetylene as the product. Clear? So you can either use 2 moles of alcoholic KOH, or you can use soda lime to ensure that the reaction is complete, giving us the alkyne. Clear? So the easier one would be to use 2 moles of alcoholic KOH, where 2 steps dehydrohalogenation will happen to give us alkyne. Yeah, so let me just clear all my drawing so that it becomes easier for me for the next reaction. The second one is using vicinal dihalide. So we have understood that vicinal dihalides are dihalides where the halogens are attached to the adjacent carbon atoms. The same mechanism, using alcoholic KOH, potassium will take away halogen to go out as KCl. One of the beta hydrogens will go out with OH as water, giving us vinyl chloride. This will react again with 1 more mole of KOH or NaNH2. So it can react with either 1 more mole of KOH, or it can react with NaNH2, where Na will take away Cl to go out as NaCl, and NH2 will take away one of the beta hydrogens to go out as NH3, finally giving us acetylene. Yeah, so this is the second method, starting from dihalides. Let's solve a few MCQs. Number of sigma and pi bonds between the 2 carbons in CaC2 is what? The number of sigma and pi bonds present between the 2 carbons in CaC2. Now we have already come across CaC2, calcium carbide. We came across the structure as well. So if you remember the structure, find out the number of sigma and number of pi bonds. So what is the type of bond between the 2 carbons there? Yes, it's a triple bond. Since it's a triple bond, in a triple bond, I will have how many sigma and how many pi bonds? Yes. So you will have one sigma bond and two pi bonds. So option D is your answer. And coming to the next question. CaC2 plus 2H2O gives A plus CaOH twice. Bond length between the two triple bonded carbon atoms is what? So here, this is again the same reaction, the same concept, but the way the questions are asked is entirely different. So this is what is the what do you say, flexibility to prepare competitive questions. In PU, it is straightforward. PU, the question would have been like this: prepare ethine using calcium carbide synthesis. That would have been the question in PU. Whereas look at how in competitive the questions can be completely altered. Yeah. So this A is nothing but ethine. He is not asking you what A is, but instead he is asking me what is the bond length between the two carbon atoms. Basically, he is asking us what is the bond length in a carbon-carbon triple bond. Yeah, so that is what is being asked. It is 1.2 angstroms. So the bond length between carbon-carbon triple bond is 1.2 angstroms. So at this juncture, I want you to take a homework. Find out the bond length in carbon-carbon single bond and carbon-carbon double bond. So find out the bond lengths in carbon-carbon single bond and carbon-carbon triple bond. Let's look at a few physical properties of alkynes. All alkynes except acetylene are odorless. So they do not have any smell, whereas acetylene has a peculiar smell. They are polar and have slightly higher boiling points than the corresponding alkanes and alkenes. So they are slightly polar and have slightly higher boiling points than corresponding to alkanes and alkenes. Their melting points and boiling points increase with increase in molecular mass. So melting points and boiling points increase with increase in the molecular mass. They are insoluble in water, but quite soluble in organic solvents. Yeah, so they are insoluble in water, but are soluble in organic solvents. Let's look at the chemical properties of alkynes. Now, as I already told you, so here, except for a few iterations here or there, few changes here or there, all the properties are exactly similar to whatever we studied under alkenes. So the concept will remain the same, except that maybe a couple of reagents will change here or there, or a couple of new steps will be introduced. Other than that, the reactions are exactly same when you compare it with alkenes. So first one, as we studied in alkenes, addition of hydrogen. So ethine undergoes reduction in the presence of metals like platinum, palladium, nickel to give ethane. So the final product is ethane. And the catalyst that is used is also the same. Remember, you came across finely divided nickel when we studied alkenes. So it is the same reagent that is used. So acetylene reacts with hydrogen in the presence of nickel hydrogen first to give us ethene, and it will again react with one more set of conditions, including the catalyst and temperature, to give us alkane. So an alkyne will first give us an alkene, and an alkene then gets converted to alkane. So the reaction conditions are exactly the same as our alkenes, but the only difference is here we have two steps. Why do we have two steps? Because for an alkyne to get converted to alkane, which is the final product, it has to give an alkene as one of the products in between. So that will be the first step. Alkyne to alkene will be the first step. Alkene to alkane will be the second step. Yeah, so pretty straightforward. The second one is addition of halogens. We called it as halogenation there under alkenes. So ethine reacts with bromine in the presence of carbon tetrachloride to form 1,1, 2,2 tetrabromoethane. So reaction is pretty similar. Acetylene reacts with bromine, where the bromines will get attached to the adjacent carbon atoms. Clear? They don't get attached to the same carbon, they get attached to the adjacent carbon atoms. This then reacts with one more mole of bromine in CCl4 to finally give us 1,1, 2,2 tetrabromoethane. So you can clearly understand that the reactions are very similar, except that in this case, there are 2 moles of the reagents that are used up, whereas in the case of alkenes, it was only 1 mole. Clear? All right. Addition of HBr, so hydrobromination or hydrohalogenation. We studied this under alkenes as well. When 2 molecules of hydrogen bromide are added to alkyne, gem dibromide is formed. So when 2 moles of hydrogen bromide are added to an alkyne, a gem dibromide is formed. Now, what is a gem dibromide? 2 bromine atoms are attached to the same carbon atom. So who's a gem dibromide? A gem dibromide is a dibromide where 2 bromine atoms are attached to the same carbon atom. So let's take an example to understand this. Acetylene will first react with HBr to form vinyl bromide. This will further react with one more HBr. Markovnikov's rule is applicable to give us CH3CHBr2. So remember, Markovnikov's rule comes into picture even here. Now, what does Markovnikov's rule state? According to Markovnikov's rule, the negative part of the molecule, whose negative in HBr, it is Br minus. The negative part of the molecule will add to the carbon of the double bond having lesser number of hydrogens. So naturally, the Br minus will attack CHBr to give us CHBr2, and H plus will attack CH2 to form CH3. So the reaction follows Markovnikov's rule. Now, when will this reaction follow anti-Markovnikov's rule? Yeah, when in the presence of a peroxide. So if I have a peroxide and HBr, then anti-Markovnikov's rule or Karash effect or peroxide effect is what is seen. Clear? So let's solve a few MCQs here. Ethine is made to react with nickel hydrogen at 120 degrees to form A. This is further made to react with same conditions to form B. During the formation product B, the following changes can be observed. Unsaturated compound converted to saturated. sp2 carbon changes to sp. Bond angle changes from 109 degrees to 108 degrees. Bond length changes from 1.54 angstroms to 1.09 angstroms. So what is he saying? During the formation of product B from your ethine, what all will happen is the question. Unsaturated compound converted into saturated. Is that what's happening? An unsaturated compound, alkyne, is getting converted to a saturated compound, alkane. So option A is correct. So let's try to see the other options and rule out. sp2 carbon changes to sp. In fact, ethine is sp hybridized. From sp, we get sp2, which in turn gets converted to sp3. So option B is wrong. So we do not have any other options in C and D which says both A or A and B or A and C or something like that. Yeah, even if you do not know whether option C or D can be right or wrong, you can safely take a bet that option A is your answer. Yeah. Alkyne plus HBr gives A. This in the presence of Br2 CCl4 gives B. What is the product? So here there are two reactions. The first step is hydrobromination, addition of HBr. The second step is halogenation, addition of Br2. So in the first step, what is A? Yes, vinyl bromide, CH2CH Br. This is made to react with Br2 in CCl4. What will happen? Will the bromine atom add across both the carbon atoms? Yes, it will. If it adds across, the product will be option A. So Br2 and Br will be the substituent. Addition of water. We saw this also. What was the reagent used there? Do you remember? We spoke about hydration of alkenes, right? In hydration of alkenes, what did we use as the reagent? Yes, it is aqueous sulfuric acid. Aqueous sulfuric acid was what was used. And what did you get as the product there? Yeah, you got an alcohol as the product. Okay, so let's try to understand what's happening here. Alkynes heated with dilute sulfuric acid and mercuric sulfate at 333 Kelvin gives carbonyl compounds. So we get carbonyl compounds here. So let's take an example. Acetylene is made to react with water. We either use mercuric sulfate or dilute sulfuric acid, which is nothing but aqueous sulfuric acid, to give us first an alcohol, which is this. Here, OH will add to one of the carbon atoms, hydrogen will add to the other carbon atoms, giving us this, which is vinyl alcohol, which is unstable. Therefore, it will undergo tautomerism. It will undergo tautomerism to give us an aldehyde. So alcohols and aldehydes are tautomers, which means from an alcohol, I can convert it into an aldehyde. Clear? So the hydrogen from the second carbon, CHOH, or hydrogen from this carbon, CHOH, will shift to the other carbon. Therefore, it becomes CH3, and this portion, the second carbon, will become CHO. So CH3, CHO is what is formed. So this is internal transfer, internal shift of atoms to form a compound with a different functional group. Such isomerism is what is called as tautomerism. So tautomerism of vinyl alcohol gives us acetaldehyde. Okay, so that's addition of water. Propine on hydration in the presence of HgSO4 and H2SO4 gives acetone. So if I start with propine and add water, I get this alcohol, prop 1N 1-ol. Prop 1N 1-ol. So OH minus will attack CH. So it becomes CHOH. H plus will attack carbon to become CH. And the triple bond is converted to a double bond. So that's what's happening in this reaction. So this CH3 CH double bond CHOH is called as prop 1N 1-ol. So reaction will not stop there because this is unstable. This will undergo tautomerism, just like the previous case. H from the CH, here H from the middle carbon, the second carbon CH, will get shifted to the terminal carbon which has OH here, and oxygen will get shifted to the center carbon to give us CH3 CO CH3. Now, I want you to clearly imagine and understand what's happening here. You need to relate, observe the reaction, and see what's happening from the reactant to the product. So from the reactant to the product, you can clearly see oxygen has come to the center carbon. If oxygen comes to the central carbon, the hydrogen shifts to the carbon on the right. If hydrogen attaches to the carbon on the right, that carbon will become CH3 and the central carbon will become C double bond O, giving us CH3 CO CH3, which is acetone. Yeah. So if I start with ethyne, I get an aldehyde. If I start with propyne, I get a ketone upon addition of water. Addition of ozone, ozonolysis. Remember ozonolysis? A molecule of ozone got added across the double bond to first give us an ozonide. Then ozonide will undergo lysis to form the respective compounds depending upon the type of starting compound that we have taken. So you either get an aldehyde or a ketone or a mixture of both, depending upon what you start with. Yeah, that is what is ozonolysis. Same logic applies here. Acetylene reacts with ozone to give an unstable ozonide, followed by reductive hydrolysis, giving us glyoxal. So let's have a look at the reaction to understand the statement better. I start with acetylene, reacts with ozone in the presence of zinc and water, gives us glyoxal. Yeah, so here we have not shown the formation of an ozonide and all that. It's pretty straightforward. It's a single step reaction giving the final product, which is glyoxal. So when you closely observe what's happened, it's basically oxygen which has got added to both the carbon atoms. So that's the end result. That's what is happening during the course of the reaction to give us the final product, which is glyoxal. One of the important properties that you need to know of alkynes is, compared to alkanes or alkenes, alkynes are acidic in nature. Now, when do we call somebody as an acid? We know the standard definition. Anybody is an acid when it gives away H+, when it donates a proton, when it shares a proton. Let's try to see what happens in the case of alkynes. In alkynes, the triply bonded carbon atoms undergo sp hybridization. So what is hybridization? In an alkyne, between the carbons of the double bond, it is sp hybridized. Due to the presence of 50% S character. Now, whenever there is sp hybridization, there is one of S and one of P, which means 50% of S character, 50% of P character. Correct? So 50% of S character and P character. Due to the presence of 50% S character, these carbon atoms have more electronegativity than compared to either an sp2 carbon or an sp3 carbon. So because they have more electronegativity, they will attract the shared pair of electrons between the carbon and hydrogen towards themselves. Clear? Inductive effect. Because they pull the shared pair of electrons more towards themselves, the hydrogen can be easily removed as H+. Clear? So hence hydrogen atoms of ethane attached to triply bonded carbon atoms are acidic in nature. So this is a very, very important concept. Alkynes are acidic in nature. Why? Because you need to clearly understand that in an alkyne, we have sp hybridization. And sp hybridization, nothing but 50% of S character. So whenever the S character increases, electronegativity of the carbon also increases. If the electronegativity of the carbon increases, then the carbon will pull the shared pair of electrons towards itself between the carbon and hydrogen. When that happens, hydrogen can be easily removed as H plus. And since it is removed as H plus, it is acidic in nature. So let's have a look at the reaction. How do you confirm whether somebody is an acid or not? You make it react with sodium. So when you take ethyne and make it react with sodium, we get this compound, monosodium acetylide. What's happened here? H plus is removed. In place of H plus, Na plus is substituted. Clear? Plus H2, hydrogen gas is liberated. So when you perform this experiment, if you see evolution of hydrogen gas, this indicates that hydrogen has been eliminated from the alkene, and elimination of H plus is what is acidic nature. So this monosodium acetylide further react with sodium if it is present in excess to remove the other hydrogens that are present attached as well, to form disodium acetylide and evolution of hydrogen. Clear? So what's basically happening in these two steps is removal of the hydrogen that is bonded to the triple bonded carbon atoms, because these carbons are highly electronegative. Why are they highly electronegative? Because of sp hybridization resulting in greater S character. So these reactions are not shown by alkenes and alkanes. Very, very important. Yeah. So since the S character is high in the case of alkynes, it is only alkynes which show acidic character, whereas alkanes or alkenes do not show these reactions. So make a note. Acidic nature of alkanes, alkenes, and alkynes is shown below. Alkanes are less acidic than alkenes. Alkenes are in turn less acidic than alkynes. So alkynes are stronger acids compared to alkenes or alkynes. Cyclic polymerization. Remember, we came across polymerization in ethene. What was the product obtained? Yes, polyethene. And we also saw how important polyethene is in our daily life. Let's see what happens in the case of alkynes. Ethyne, on passing through red hot iron tube or copper tube at 873 Kelvin, undergoes cyclic polymerization to form benzene. So it undergoes cyclic polymerization in the presence of red hot iron or copper at 873 Kelvin to form benzene. So let's have a look at the reaction. So we have taken 3 moles of ethyne here, 3 ethyne. The reason why we have put it like that is just to make you understand how the final product looks. Clear? So what happens here? Acetylene, 3 moles of acetylene, when it is passed through red hot iron tube at 873, bonds will break and shift like this. Thereby a carbon-carbon single bond is formed between the carbon atoms involved in the shift to give us what? To give us benzene. Benzene is C6H6. So pretty straightforward. This is one more favorite question for examiners in PUC. Cyclic polymerization of alkynes or ethyne to give us benzene. Clear? So if you clearly align the 3 ethyne molecules in the form of benzene, you'll be able to understand the formation of benzene. Yeah, this is one of the methods used for preparation of benzene that we will come across in the next part of the chapter. Let's solve a few MCQs. Reagent used in hydration of alkynes is it H2SO4? Is it HDSO4? Is it HgSO4, HSO4? Is it alcoholic KOH? We have seen the usage of H2SO4. We have also seen the usage of HgSO4 in hydration. So therefore, answer is option C. What does alcoholic KOH do? Yes, it removes hydrogen and halogen. It carries out dehydrohalogenation reaction. Calcium carbide gives A. A upon passage with red hot copper gives B. Name of the reactions in the above conversion is what? Is it hydrolysis, ozonolysis? Is it hydrolysis, oxidation? Is it oxidation, ozonolysis? Or is it hydrolysis, polymerization? So should be pretty straightforward. Red hot copper is nothing but cyclic polymerization. Calcium carbide converting into an ethyne is nothing but hydrolysis. So therefore, option D is your answer. With this, we come to the last part of alkynes, the uses of alkynes. Where do we use alkynes extensively? Oxyacetylene flame, which is used for cutting and welding metals, just like what we saw in the case of alkenes. It is used as an illuminant in lamps. Yeah, in lamps, it is used as an illuminant. For artificial ripening of fruits, it is used for artificial ripening of fruits. In the manufacture of Vestron and Vestrol. So in the manufacture of Vestron and Vestrol. It's also used in the manufacture of acetaldehyde, acetic acid, oxalic acid, etc., which are very, very important industrially. It's also used in the manufacture of plastic, synthetic rubber, synthetic fibers called Orlon, etc. So these are some of the other common uses of acetylene. So you can clearly see how much of these we use on a daily basis. In fact, we use all of these on a daily basis. What is Vestron? Vestron is 1,1, 2,2 dichloroethane. So Vestron is 1,1, 2,2 dichloroethane. Now, how do we get Vestron? Yes, upon halogenation, chlorination of ethyne. So when you do chlorination of ethyne, you get Vestron as the product. Vestron and Vestrozole are used as what? Now, in the previous slide, we came across Vestron. In one more previous slide, we came across preparation of Vestron and Vestrol, but we did not specify what is the use because it was created here as a MCQ. What is Vestron and Vestrozole used for? Are they used as solvents? Are they used as anesthetic agents? Are they used as pesticides? Or are they used as drugs? These two are used as solvents, very, very important solvents in industries. The acidic nature of hydrogens in acetylene can be explained by the reaction with what? Sodium metal, ammoniacal cuprous chloride, ammoniacal silver nitrate, or all of the above. We came across this just in the last chemical reaction that we studied. We use all of the above. So you only came across sodium, but we can use ammoniacal cuprous chloride and we can use ammoniacal silver nitrate as well. The color of the precipitate formed when acetylene is passed through ammoniacal cuprous chloride solution. So this just answers the previous question. In the previous question, we said we can also use ammoniacal cuprous chloride. How can we use? Because there is a precipitate that is formed whenever acetylene reacts with ammoniacal cuprous chloride, indicating the acidity. So what is the color of the precipitate obtained? Is it white, red, blue, or is it green? I know you might not have come across this. It is a red precipitate. So a red precipitate is formed when acetylene is passed through ammoniacal cuprous chloride solution. Take a homework, find out what happens when acetylene is reacted with ammoniacal silver nitrate solution. Find out what happens there and how you can identify the acidic nature of alkynes. So with this, we complete alkynes. So over the past few classes, we have looked at alkanes, alkenes, and alkynes. We looked at how to prepare them, how to name them, what are the different chemical properties that these compounds show, and finally we looked at why we use them. Why are these compounds important? So with this, we finish the first part of hydrocarbons. In the next class, we will start with benzene. So we'll understand benzene in more detail in terms of preparations and properties. So until the next class, thank you. Namaste.